Boom. So Mike Gundy has been fired from Oklahoma State, and I think the big thing here is, a lot of people are looking at Gundy, right? And like, uh, you know, they're looking at him like, oh well, oh, and I'm just gonna say something here, man, because I think a lot of people are confused. I had for certain reasons I've had an up close good look at Gundy, and I've been keeping a close eye on him and the Oklahoma State program. And everything is Gundy's fault. Like I'm not. I see people saying like, oh, you know, is this person, is that person. It's the NIL that Oklahoma State there. It's their fault, but it's not their fault though. Like just say you haven't been keeping up with the Oklahoma State program, and now let me know everything I need. Like if you're saying it's Oklahoma State's fault, you're just telling me you haven't kept up with their program. Because anybody that has knows that everything is Gundy. Gundy don't want to recruit. He don't want to go to the portal. Gundy actually admitted he that NIL will go away when it first came out. He didn't even believe in it. Like, so how does that Oklahoma State's fault when you don't even? It's called adapt or die. There's the reason why dinosaurs on Earth anymore. When you refuse to adapt and you don't want to go through NIL, you don't want to use NIL. That's on you. Like that's on Mike Gundy at the end. That's not on the university. You didn't think NIL was real, and you didn't want to believe it was real. And when you found out it was real, you thought it was just gonna go away and disappear or magically. That's nobody else's fault but your own. The university can't do nothing for you, bro. So anybody saying, "Oh, Gundy, he's not a good coach because he hasn't adapted," y'all just showing that you don't watch, you don't understand. You haven't watched Oklahoma State. You don't keep Oklahoma. You're showing that. That's what you're showing. Anybody that keeps Oklahoma State knows he's done a horrible job with NIL, and he hasn't adapted. He wants to continue to do things the same way it's always been done, and it doesn't work like that. It just doesn't work. If you're not gonna adapt, you're gonna die, and he's dead. And so anybody that's sitting here saying, "Oh, well, another program," it don't matter where he goes. Any program that's trying to win and trying to use NIL, it's not. It don't matter with him. He doesn't want to adapt. If you can adapt in life, you're going to die. It's as simple as that. It's flat out what it is. He didn't want to adapt. He's dead. So there's no one else is blamed but himself. And that's what you get. So no, Gundy is no good coach. Good coaches adapt. You didn't adapt. And so like that, I don't like this whole narrative. Oh, it's Oklahoma State. They didn't want to invest in NIL. How is it they fault that this dude refused to embrace NIL? Oklahoma State can't force him to embrace NIL. And Oklahoma State can do okay. You don't want to embrace NIL? We're gonna find somebody that will. That's what Oklahoma State's gonna do. So how that's Oklahoma State's fault is really mind blowing to me. What is Oklahoma State's fault? They should have fired this dude last year. That's what they should have done. When he didn't win a single game, that was pathetic. He didn't win a single game in conference. That's horrible. That's what they should have done. That's what they should have done. He should have fired him last year. He shouldn't even got an opportunity this year. They should have fired him last year and went and got somebody. But they didn't. If I'm Oklahoma State, look, man, you play it out and you see who's available and when and where and see who you want to hire. For me, my candidate for Oklahoma State would be Gundy's former defensive coordinator up at Penn. Oh my, I keep blanking on his name. I always forget this dude's name. But my league guy would be the Penn State defensive coordinator right now. I think him is. I'm telling you, like if Oklahoma State gets him, if he's willing to do it, if he's willing to embrace the NIL, if he's willing to be a head coach, if he's willing to recruit, he can be that next big time coach for Oklahoma State. That'd be my number one guy for Oklahoma State would be the Penn State D coordinator. You might got, and he's already coached at Oklahoma State. I think his wife lives in Oklahoma. Like, it just kind of all adds up for Oklahoma State to go and get him, and for him to be the guy at Oklahoma State, long term. And his defenses were elite at Oklahoma State. And honestly, that's probably where the fall off kind of started when they lost him and that kind of stuff. And then on top of that too, Gundy's made horrible hires at the coordinator positions. Okay, so you're a CEO, head coach, whatever you want to call it. He made a horrible hire with Todd Grantham. He made a horrible hire in some TCU wide receivers coach. Not a good hire. And then you had horrible hires, Casey Dunn. Like before that, like he made horrible coordinator hires. Even forgetting the NIL, good coaches make good coordinator hires and they hire good position coaches. You gotta to be a great good coach, you gotta hire good coaches around you. And he also did a horrible job of hiring coaches around him. Everything Gunny did was all himself. Oklahoma State did not inflict anything on him. And everything he that has happened to him has been his fault. Oklahoma State was supporting him the whole way. They should have fired him last year. They gave him grace, and if I and they gave him this opportunity, and he went and made horrible hires that trust me, got nobody excited. And he hired a bunch of lame duck coaches that probably don't know how to adapt either, and can't coach to save their lives anyways. So everything he did was himself, whether it was an NIL, whether it was acquiring the coaches. It was a horrible job. He wants college football to be like it was in 2010, and it's just not like that anymore. It's 2025, about to be 2026. College football is changing. You need to adapt, or you need to get out the sport. That's what Nick Saban did. Nick Saban said, "I'm not doing all this NIL stuff." He retired because why would you tarnish your legacy? See what happened with Gundy? He was too arrogant, too big headed. That's some of these coaches really y'all understand. They just because you think oh blah blah, these guys just be big headed. They be arrogant. And they be thinking, "Oh man, you can't take me out. I know how to coach. You can NIL could be whatever. I can still coach at the end of the day." And instead of doing what Saban did and say, "You know what? I'm gonna retire. I'm gonna call it, and I'm gonna let it be what it is." And because I don't want to be in NIL space because I don't want to be a part of the NIL debacle. Even though bullying on Saban is he says that, but then Saban's been playing the NIL game for his whole career, so that's really interesting to me. But he didn't want to be a part of the NIL. When it became fair game, now he wants to quit. So that's always interesting to me about Saban. But um, he didn't want to play the NIL game anymore. He knew it was like, look, I'm just not gonna. I don't want to become a part of this. I don't want to coach in this era anymore. In this new era we're entering, I don't want to be a part of this. So I'm gonna not tarnish my legacy, and I'm gonna retire and call it quits. Because he a humble guy. Look, I can. He knows he can still coach, but it's more. He knows it's more to coaching than just coaching. X's and O's, a lot more than that, especially in this era. And so that's why I don't give up my Gunny. Why not just retire and say, hey, look, man, I'm gonna get my statue and all my stuff, and I can go and enjoy the rest of my life. Instead, you want to continue to coach and be all arrogant and big-headed about it, and this is what you're gonna get. There's a coach who doesn't want to say no, who thinks nobody can tell him nothing, and then you get a tarnished legacy. Like, how do you build a statue of a guy you just like? That's what I found really hard for me to believe. Um, with the debacle he's had right now at Oklahoma State, how do they build a statue for this guy? I just find it hard, man. It's gonna be really awkward. I say that if for him to get the rewards he should have got, he probably deserves, for what he's done for the university. Because how do you do that with a coach you just fired? When he was up there arguing with the athletic director, and they're over there battling and talking about taking money from his contract, like, and they're having awards, and then we're gonna build a statue for you and what you've done to that fan base. I mean, Tulsa to lose to Tulsa in front of your home fan base. I mean, to me, this is like Gundy may still get all the naming the field and all these awards and stuff like that, and getting all the stuff that we expect him to get at Oklahoma State, but it's just going to be awkward when you get fired and you lose to Tulsa. Like, that's the last game you ever coached at Oklahoma State with a loss to Tulsa. That's embarrassing at the end of the day. And so when that is your legacy, when that is how you that's not his legacy, but that's how you leave a program, like, that is going to be real awkward, to to kind of come back and face that, and for that statue or those things to be out there and people to see, like, oh yeah, well, Mike Gundy, he was great, but then the last 2 years were horrible, and his last game ever at Oklahoma State was a loss to Tulsa, and he was fighting with the athletic director, and he didn't want to adapt to NIL. Like, it's just he's tarnished his legacy flat out. He's tarnished his legacy a little bit, not a little bit, a lot. So we'll see what he does. People who think Gundy's a good head coach just haven't been watching him. He's a horrible head coach. He doesn't know how to hire coordinators. He doesn't want to adapt to NIL. He wants to coach like the 2010, the 2015, 2016. It ain't that no more. And he doesn't, whether he understands it or not, he just refuses to adapt. And so I think he's a horrible head coach. Anybody that hires this guy that actually wants to win games and you want to use NIL and compete at the Power 5 level don't know what they're doing, and it'll be an F for me. If I hire this guy, the head coach will be an F for me at the Power 5 level wanting to use NIL. I'm just telling you now, because this ain't the guy you want. And anybody says, I saw somebody, he should go to Arkansas, F. If Arkansas hires him, they'll be worse than they are even now. I tell you that right now. He's worse than Sam Pittman. I'd rather have Sam Pittman than Mike Gundy. I tell you that right now. Right now. I'm telling you, Gundy, you got to adapt. You can't like, you just hire him an NIL guy and let him know. You got to be a part of it. You got to be. There's more to Gundy than just NIL. Like, you got to be able to hire the right coordinators, and he just doesn't want to. He doesn't want to do that. He hires people he likes, and probably not the people he wants that are going to go against what he wants and kind of modernize football. Mike Gundy reminds me a lot of Pete Carroll. Got the same problem with Pete Carroll in Seattle. Was just hiring horrible coordinators who didn't know what they were doing because they were guys he knew and were on his staff in the past, or had like-minded thinking, and did what he said and didn't give him no talk back. That those are the guys Pete Carroll hired, and you saw it in Seattle. With a firing. Same way here. So I think Gundy is just past. When you don't want to adapt, man, your time is done. So I think it's done. And anybody wants to hire this guy at a Power Five program that wants to use NIL, it'll be an F from me. And if you think you hiring this guy is gonna be some kind of big time hire, it ain't. The guy is not a good head coach at the end of the day. And it just sucks because people don't understand that. They don't understand what's really been going on. And like I said, for Oklahoma State, I really can't remember this guy's name, but the Penn State defense coordinator would be my number one guy for me. Go get him and go move on. And if he wants to adapt, like I said, if he wants to adapt to NIL, if he wants to adapt to go to recruit, because Oklahoma State, I know the athletic director wants to win, and he's wants to go find the best guy for the job. And I know Oklahoma State wants to compete in the NIL space. And I know but they have to have a coach that's willing to adapt to that too. Like, what that's the next thing too. I don't understand is like with NIL, you have to be able to give your fan base a reason to want to donate or give you money. Like at Oklahoma State probably had a lot more NIL than people probably has a lot more NIL than a lot of people think, waiting for them that people want to give to people want to spend in football. But when they have a coach that doesn't want to embrace it and doesn't want to use it, you're not gonna give your money. No one's gonna give their money to somebody that doesn't care or doesn't want to embrace it. So it's like you gotta have I watched that at Texas. You gotta have a coach that's really gonna reignite the fans. Say, okay, we can get behind this guy, and he's willing to adapt to the modern era and do whatever it takes to win. Gundy just wasn't that. So why they Oklahoma State got a bunch of NIL, but nobody's gonna be giving them NIL money if they know, man, why would I give Oklahoma State money when Gundy doesn't even care and he's not even gonna use it, and it's probably his time's probably done. So I think I know this fan base needs a new boost. Gundy he was boring and nothing exciting was happening at Oklahoma State. He needed a boost. They needed a boost. Uh, and so this is going to reignite the fan base. I think it's going to reignite Oklahoma State's NIL. Well, not reignite. They've never really joined the NIL space since it's been a thing. But I think it's going to ignite. I just say that it's going to ignite the Oklahoma State NIL base because like I think they got people who don't understand. I think Oklahoma State has people that want to give NIL, but they need a coach that they can believe in and can get them excited about giving that money and knowing, hey, we're going to high school and we're recruiting. We're getting some good recruiting classes. We're going to the player. We're getting really good portal players in the portal. And Gundy just like I criticized Gundy for the longest about how he was recruiting in the portal. Gundy was not recruiting in the portal, man. He was not going and filling the holes. And at the end of the day, if you're gonna win in this era, you've got to go to the portal. I don't care who you are. You've got to go to the portal and fill your holes in the portal, whatever holes are on your roster. There's nothing wrong with that. That's how you need to do it if you're gonna win in this league. I mean, in this era. So, um, I think this is a phenomenal job by Oklahoma State and all the people. He deserved. He did not. Let me tell you something. If he deserved to finish the season, he would have won games. I do not believe in. Oh well, he deserved to finish the season and then get fired at the end of the season. No, he didn't. You got to win games to get if you want to get fired. Nah. If you don't want to get fired, win games. That's what I don't do the whole. We had a legacy that didn't deserve to be fired in right the beginning of the season. His legacy at today is great, but if you don't want to be fired, you need to win games. Like once you start losing games, you're eligible to be fired. I hope people understand that. I don't care what your legacy is or who you think you are. When you don't, your job is to win games. Just like at your regular job. If you don't do your job, you're gonna get fired. I don't care what your legacy is at your job or what kind of cachet and name you got at the place you work at. If you don't do your job at the level it's supposed to be done, you're eligible to be fired. I don't care about no end of the year and don't fire. People get fired during Christmas. People get fired during Thanksgiving. It's the same way in the real world as it is with coaches. If you don't do your job, it don't matter what time of year it is. Oh, fire me after Christmas or it don't matter. Fire me after. Nah, it's life at the end of the day. You don't do your job, you're gonna get fired. That's how it works. It don't matter what time of year it is and when you think it should be done. You don't want to be fired. Do your job at a high level, and you won't be fired. If Gundy wanted if you Gundy wanted to be let go at the end of the season and wanted to be able to call the quits on his own, then he should have done what he should have won games, so that way he wouldn't have got fired, and then he would have been able to say, like Nick Saban did, okay, I can decide to retire on my own timing and not when the school decides for me, because Nick Saban won games. He wasn't losing them. So that's why Nick Saban was able to retire on his own, and other coaches are able to do that. Andy Reid is going to be able to retire on his own time because he's winning games. When you don't win games, you don't get that luxury. So that's the end of that discussion right there. I think this is about time for Oklahoma State to move on, and I'm glad they did. This program needs a coach that's going to be catching with the modern times because they behind right now. I got to be honest, they behind the NIL space. They behind when it comes to recruiting. That roster is horrible. People are like, oh, so Oklahoma State players have 30 days of trip. Nobody wants Oklahoma State's players. Maybe one or two or three, maybe that. But that y'all don't understand how bad Oklahoma State's roster is. It's horrendous. There's not a lot of players people would want off that team. That roster's not very good. Most of those guys will be transferring down a level. So that roster isn't any good anyway. So it ain't that big of a loss. It ain't like they're gonna lose. Oh my gosh, we're losing. They like Bama, and and then like they got all these players people want. Oklahoma State, they got maybe I could probably count on my hands the level of guys that maybe other schools, Power Five schools, that probably want out of Oklahoma State. So it ain't like they're gonna lose a bunch of big time dudes anyways. Their roster stunk, and people don't understand that either. But that's what happens when you don't recruit high school. Your roster usually ends up stinking, and you don't recruit the portal. You have a roster that ain't all that. So I think it's about time the best for the university. And now it's going to come down to what the AD does. I think he needs to take this process slow, take it to December. Obviously, I think he will, and just keep evaluating, who's around. Like I said, my leading candidate for a third time I'm saying this now will be the Penn State defensive coordinator, will be my number one guy. The best guy. It makes too much sense for me. Um, but evaluate and see what your options are and who's willing to do what. And number one should be who's willing to adapt to recruiting. And coming here. Right at Oklahoma State, there's too much talent right there in the state of Texas. There's no excuse not to be recruiting these big like. There's too much time. You got Texas, you got Louisiana. There's too much. You're right there in the South. There's too much talent. There's too much talent. But there's just too much talent around Oklahoma State for them not to be recruiting at a high level and getting these big time players, uh, like Oklahoma does. Oklahoma recruits the state of Texas at a very high level. That's why they're able. That's why they've been able to win for so long. And there's just no excuse when Texas is right there and all the other schools in the South, Louisiana, those guys. There's just too much talent, and there's no excuse for it. Not like you're in South Dakota or something when there ain't no talent around you. There's a bunch of talent where Oklahoma State's located in recruiting and high school recruiting. They should be recruiting at a better level, at a higher level, and getting better players than what they have um, right now. So I'm glad for Oklahoma State. It's a great move. It was really past due. I would have fired him last year, uh, but yeah, it's past due. Should have been fired last year, and they really were late on it. Pat went longer than I would have liked, but it was about time. I still think Oklahoma State. We'll see what they do. All of the coaches on that staff look pretty horrible. So, but I think it honestly may not. This may not change anything when it comes to the fact of the matter. It may come to the fact of the matter that they still, I think, going to go winless in the Big 12. We'll see. That's the only thing I'm wanting to see is will they win a game in the Big 12. We're talking about that for Oklahoma State really is sad to what that program has become. But I just want to see if that's really going to change anything. But other than that, I think this is the best move that could have been made. And now they can go the right foot, and we'll see what Gundy does. Like I said, I don't think nobody should hire the guy at the Power Five level, really any level, but at the Power Five level, looking to use NIL, he's just not a good coach anymore. So